Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jen Woodhouse, and in this video, I'm going to show you how picture frame molding transformed the entire look and feel of this basic bedroom. This is an easy and affordable DIY project that I was able to do in just a couple of days with a few $100s. So keep watching and I'll show you how I did it. Ever since we bought our French colonial home, I've been inspired by Parisian architecture. It's not uncommon to see ornate millwork and molding in traditional French design, so I thought installing picture frame molding would be a great way to infuse that European elegance into a very basic and blank canvas of a room. Base cap molding is what's typically used for picture frame molding, and it has a thin, delicate profile, but because I wanted a chunkier look for this space, I chose this primed pine casing instead. And it cost about 91 cents per linear foot, and I needed about 300 feet for the entire room. I did end up adding the ornamental corners, which cost a bit more, but feel free to leave those off for a more modern look. I'm still undecided as to if I want to keep them or not, so I just temporarily attach them to the wall with double stick tape. Shh, it'll be our secret. I'm giving myself a bit of time before I make a permanent decision. Now, I do think they make the room look more Parisian, which was the vibe that I was going for, so they may just stay. All right, so these are the tools that I used. A pneumatic brad nailer and brad nails, tape measure, pencil, 48-inch level, a laser level if you're fancy, a compound miter saw, or you can use a miter box and a handsaw, a caulk gun, and safety gear, of course. And for materials, I used prime pine casing, ornamental corner moldings, construction adhesive, silicone trim sealant, and painter's putty. I'll be sure to link everything down below for you. The first thing I had to do was plan my layout. There are really no hard and fast rules when it comes to laying out picture frame molding. It really is up to you depending on the look that you want to achieve. And because I am a giant nerd who can't leave anything to chance, I took measurements of the room and created a 3D diagram. Then I just played with the layout of the molding with the program until I was happy with how it all looked. I also found a handy inch calculator where you can input your own measurements and it spits out a formula for you, so I'll link that down below as well. I started with the wall across the windows since that was the longest wall and the main focal point in the room, where the headboard would go. I decided on 4 large picture frame boxes centered on the wall with smaller boxes above. I finally landed on 4-inch spacing everywhere, 4 inches from the baseboards, 4 inches from the door casing, and 4 inches in between each of the picture frames. And to keep things consistent, I made a 4-inch square template out of cardboard so I have a reference point. Because walls and ceilings aren't perfectly square and plumb, I used this template just as a starting guide, and it helped so much so that I didn't have to measure every single time. I placed the template in the bottom right corner where the baseboard and the door casing met and made a mark. Then I used a level to draw out the rest of the boxes from this reference point. This template turned out to be super handy. Creating my design with a 3D drawing program really helped because I was able to record the measurements for each molding piece. Now, if you're not familiar with these types of programs, you can still map things out the old-fashioned way with graph paper and a ruler. Again, the spacing I decided on was just what looked good to my eye while in the space, so there's no right or wrong. I decided to make the top of the upper boxes even with the door frame. We also plan on adding crown molding to this room, so I made sure to leave space for that. Once I had the picture frames mapped out, I made a cut list organized by wall. There are a lot of walls in this room. The vertical pieces of the molding won't change from wall to wall. Only the horizontal pieces will, depending on the width of the boxes on each wall. So now that I have a game plan in place, it's time to transfer it to the room. I used a level and drew out all of the boxes on the walls, and then I double-checked my work with a laser level. And I made sure to draw the boxes level and plumb instead of going off of the baseboards or the ceilings, as these are often not level, square, plumb, or true. I decided on this primed pine casing for a few reasons. I like the chunkier profile, and it's primed, which my painters appreciate. It's solid wood, cost-effective, and my local Home Depot had a lot of it in stock, so if I made a mistake, I could always head back to the store for more. And it cost a little under $300 for this entire room. Next, it's time to hunker down in the workshop and make a gazillion mitered cuts. I set my miter saw deck to 45 degrees and started measuring and marking my cuts. It's a good idea to sneak up on the cut, meaning to make your cuts a little long and then shave off a little bit at a time until you get to the exact measurement. You can always cut more off, but you can't cut more on. The ends are mitered so that they're not parallel, so that when you put all 4 pieces together, they form a picture frame. I recommend cutting the longest pieces first to make the most of your material, so that's exactly what I did. I cut all of the vertical pieces since that measurement didn't change, and then I took them all back up to the room for installation. I used a pneumatic brad nailer and some construction adhesive to attach the trim to the wall. Of course, just as I did with our bathroom renovation, I left a few secret messages for any future renovators to find. I attached the vertical pieces around the room first, simply lining them up with my pencil marks, and then I went back and then took exact measurements for the horizontal pieces and then cut them to fit. And I didn't bother finding the studs in the wall for this. The trim is very light and the construction adhesive will be plenty strong to keep it on the wall. In fact, I actually tried to be pretty conservative with the adhesive in case any future homeowners want to remove this wall treatment. I'm hoping to minimize the damage to the drywall. I also tried to be conservative with the nails because less nail holes to fill equals happy painters. Okay, so let's talk about this outlet situation. A lot of people on Instagram were pretty upset with me that I chose to trim around the outlet. Now, there are a lot of different ways to deal with obstructions like these. You can move the outlet, which we've done before, or you can notch out the trim. And I didn't really want to move the outlet and have to deal with having to patch drywall, so I chose to just trim around it. And this kind of detailed trim work is so much more fun to me. I did try notching out the trim, but it just ended up looking kind of janky and it interrupted the pretty profile of the molding, so I wasn't really a fan of that. Now, I am totally defending my choice here. If you want to do it a different way, then by all means do that. I just think that as long as you're making an intentional choice, it'll be the right one. After all of the trim was installed, my favorite painters caulked all of the seams and joints and filled the nail holes with painter's putty. By the way, in my opinion, painter's putty is way better than wood filler for filling these nail holes. Then the painters put a few coats of paint on the walls and the trim and then made everything look seamless. Side note, a good painter can make mediocre carpentry work look amazing. So that's it. What do you think? Is this a DIY project that you want to tackle in your own home? It certainly gives you a lot of bang for your buck. So if you want to take a closer look at this bedroom makeover, we've got a video tour on my channel as well, so check that out. And as always, leave any questions for me in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.